So I gave this talk with the same title about 2 or 3 weeks ago on a Saturday night, about 10 at night. Was anybody there? You were there. Great, fantastic. So, but you know, I was just saying, when you give your life story, we do that now, but when you give your life story, every time you give it, it's completely different. You know, it's like you get stuff out of you and it's dealt with. So, to some degree. So the talk will be different. It's Sangharakshita's talk. I've ripped him off totally, you know. They're all his ideas. But it's a bit naughty because some of the ideas which were in the Saturday night talk, just a bit too difficult. I still can't get my brain around some of them. All the different maras, you know. So I left it out this time. It's not there, you know. Well, I left one mara in. And mara being this force that doesn't want you to make spiritual progress, that's all. So yes, I've been wandering around listening to Sangharakshita's lecture on this, and I do recommend that on Free Buddhist Audio, the same title, The Buddha's Victory. So this is just a preamble as I get into the material. I haven't started yet. It's always good to have some rubbish, you know. But I used to organise some of the big events. It's amazing, you know. I organised a London meeting, then a national one. So you get about 600 people coming down from all over Britain. And the breakthrough was when I told them to bring sandwiches, you know. How do you cater for 600 people, you know? So that was the breakthrough. And it was I wanted a central speaker, and somebody said, why don't you ask Sangharakshita? So 3 times on 3 years I asked Sangharakshita, and each time he said yes. So that's his talk, you know, The Buddha's Victory was one of these talks. So that's it. I've been going around yesterday and last night with the headphones on, listening to his lecture. And it's funny, I realise how passionate the man is. I never got that. And also, the structure of his talks are really astonishingly good. I never noticed that before, you know. So his structure would be better than mine, but there we go. I've got a few extra stories, which are quite nice. But there it is, really. But just the passion, he is so sincere. I've seen him at the end of 2 hours once on one lecture, almost tears in the eyes, you know, trying to get through to us, you know. And once, I remember, he visited us in Essen, Germany, and he stayed in my flat, and he needed new pyjamas and slippers. And so I took him into Kaufhof, yeah? And at one point, he's trying to get the truth through to my thick head, and he's just giving me the Dharma, and we're walking along with this blind teacher. He's blind, yeah? He can see colour. Well, he's dead now, but you know, and he's trying to get the truth through, and I'm looking around, and we're in one of the largest lingerie departments I've ever been in. All these pinks and whites and bras and panties, and the truth being hammered into my head. I thought, this is surreal. You know, but and we got his pyjamas, you know, and I adjusted them on the sewing machine, and then we went to pizza. Lovely. So there we go. That's the preamble. Yeah. I'll cut that out. Yeah. So very good. So the Buddha lived around 2,500 years ago in North India. We know that he gained enlightenment, and which was a great victory. Yeah. He overcame ignorance and all the rest, and what he won for himself was wisdom, freedom, the total destruction of suffering for himself. Yeah. The greatest happiness, and he said himself, enlightenment is the highest bliss. Sometimes you have to remind Buddhists that. It's not a path of sorrow, you know. It is the highest bliss. It should get happier and happier, you know. So that's the teaching. But it's interesting, he had many things to overcome, and he had many things to conquer, like ignorance and things like that. And so we call him the Buddha, yeah? And the word Buddha means awake. So we're yeah? The Jinnah, you know? And then we'd all be Jinists, yeah? And that would have worked. You know, we're the Jinnist movement, you know? And elsewhere, Sangharakshita says, that might not be so bad, you know? Because, I mean, elsewhere in what I've written, today, what we've done with the word Buddha, you know, I remember buying, you know, no, I didn't buy it, I used it, a bottle of shampoo in the shape of a Buddha with a screw top on, you know. I remember in 1 week I saw 2 adverts. One was in a monastery where they were hoovering, it was a vacuum cleaner advert, and all the monks all levitated, and this fellow went underneath them all with a vacuum, you know. And in another one, it was for razors. They all had shaved heads. Advertising. How do you get away with that, you know? When you do with Buddhism, we don't have blasphemy laws. Imagine trying to do the same with certain other religions. I say no more, you know? All right? But in the end, you can end up, this is not in the talk, I remember listening late one night to this theologian, this woman talking about the vulnerability of God. We must remember God's vulnerability. I thought, yeah. You know, for heaven's sake, he created hell to put us all in, you know. This is not one of the most vulnerable. But, you know, but there was sheer tendency to sentimentalize, you know. And I've been to Bodh Gaya, and there was one of these little Western Buddhas of this Buddha figure. It's like a 10-year-old boy, and he's got one knee up, and his head's there, and he's asleep with a little sweet smile on his face. And this is the Buddha. You know, the Buddha was scary. You know, the Buddha was frightening, you know. He could be totally... I mean, that's the irony. This is not in the talk. The irony is that totally simple, ordinary people could walk right up to the Buddha and talk to him, and philosophers were frightened of him, and he had kings for friends. This is the Buddha, you know. And there's one instant where a crazy, mad bull elephant is launched at the Buddha to kill him, and the Buddha just pacifies him. You know, that's the Buddha. You know, not some sentimental little thing. So there we go. All right. That's more preamble, sorry about that. Anyway, there we go. But the conqueror. And Sangharakshita's talk was called The Buddha's Victory. And he looks at all these little victories leading up to the enlightenment of the Buddha. Good. So, yeah, there are various versions of the Buddha's life. The later the version, the sweeter the story. You know, you get... you know, this incredibly wealthy young prince. He's got 3 palaces, one for the summer, one for the autumn, you know, whatever. You know, these are the later stories. He marries this Yashodhara. He has a little son. A charioteer takes him out. The father protects him from seeing the realities of life. We know all this. But one day he goes out with his charioteer and he sees... illness, he sees old age, he sees death, and he's horrified, you know. And what does he? And he asks the charioteer, "Does that happen to everyone?" He goes, "Yes, me, yes." And what does he say? "The intoxication of youth left me." He became depressed. You know, disillusioned at least. You know, I shouldn't say depressed. That's mental illness. Right, but he became disillusioned. So, and then on another ride out, he sees a wandering mendicant, robes, shaven head, begging, and he just thinks, he looks good, maybe he's the way. And that's how it comes about. So this is one story, and late at night, you know, should use his name then, Siddhartha. He became the Buddha later. He's not the Buddha yet. Siddhartha. He's going to leave. He goes into his bedroom. He looks at his wife sleeping, his child. Breaks his heart. He goes off. His charioteer takes him out on the horse to the edge of the land. He gives away his smart clothes to a beggar, and off he goes into the forest. That's one story. That comes hundreds of years later. An early one, yeah, which the Buddha himself gave, and this is one of the early ones. So this is the Buddha's words, okay? He said, this is in his old age, he reminisced, he said, "Then I, monks, after a time being young, my hair coal black," not all silver, yeah, "my hair coal black, possessed of radiant youth, in the prime of my life, although my unwilling parents wept and wailed, having cut off my hair and beard, having put on yellow robes, went forth from home into homelessness. So this is the story that the Buddha tells. You might notice there's no wife and baby there. Interesting, yeah? And I'll tell you why it's interesting, because values change. To walk out on your wife and children today is just unethical, you know. Well, generally, you know, it's just, you don't do that. It's the pits, it's bad, yeah? But values were different at the time of the Buddha, yeah? And for a young man not to leave the family with an heir, you know, and a person to carry on the name, is so criminal that to not have a wife and child is the great crime. So it's quite possible that later writers wrote this in about the wife and child to show that the Buddha was a good guy. He even thought of the family name. But it might be total fiction. And a dear friend of mine, Sangharakshita, he says, he's a real scholar, he says, when you read the Pali Canon, read it like Shakespeare. Read it like poetry, you know. And you can learn so much from Shakespeare. I just love Shakespeare. The more you have to read the same play a dozen times, you know, and the jewels just come to the surface, yeah. And the Pali Canon's the same. And I like to read the Pali Canon as if I'm Sherlock Holmes, you know. Sometimes it's a three-pipe mystery, you know, and you stay with it, and it just gets more and more alive, and the truths come out, and sometimes the truths really work. They really, we think, that happened. That happened. There's this, you know, all right, keep telling this, he's not in the talk too. That's why I need to get in quickly. There's this instant, I think this is so real. I think it's so real. The Buddha is giving a talk to all the monks and nuns, whoever, and he sneezes, yeah? And the monks, they would go, "Good health, sir." And the Buddha just stops the teaching. He goes, "Does that work?" And they will go, "No, Lord." You know, he says, "All right, it's banned. You can't say it anymore," because it's useless speech. One of the big things about the Buddha is you must speak properly. You speak the truth, always, yeah? Providing it's appropriate. Sometimes you hold back a bit, yeah? But you speak the truth. So this, you know, good health, brother, you know, as if it's going to save your life. The Buddha bans it. Fine. So the poor old monks, not allowed to say it anymore. A few months later, they come back to the Buddha. Lord, the villagers think that the brotherhood is really rude because we won't say good health, brother, you know, or good health, sir. And the Buddha goes, "All right, you can say it again." I love that. I love it because there's no obvious spiritual teaching in it, but it must have happened. You know, it's too odd to create that little story. And yeah, the Buddha sneezing. And you'll find it in several accounts. Just type that into Google, Buddha sneezes, you know, Pali Canon, yeah? But there we go. So you read the Pali Canon as you would sort of Sherlock Holmes. And yeah, there we go. So, so here we go. But the Buddha does leave home, or Siddhartha, sorry, does leave home. And Sangharakshita points out this is the first of his victories. This is the first of his victories. He's walked out on the family. He's walked out on the family name. It's anathema, it's bad, you know, in India with the great big, huge families, yeah? And what does it mean? I mean, he could have stayed there. It's a bit lazy, you know, he's got a life all assured, but he goes out and he basically rocks the boat, you know, he disturbs things, and what it means is that he's taking initiative, he's doing what he wants to do, he's going to have his life, he's going to go forth from the family and the group. And a little thing I will add in here, when you're making these decisions, there's a special enemy against doing these decisions, and it's inside us. There's a little voice that goes, "No, it'd be much more comfortable to stay at home, you know. My mum likes cooking for me. She likes doing the laundry, you know." Sorry, I've heard 40-year-old men saying that, you know. But, you know, but you have to overcome the voice within. And so this is a victory. The Buddha, Siddhartha, has gone forth from family. Okay, he goes into the forest. I said that earlier, he does go into the forest. He finds a teacher. And this teacher, his name is Alara Kalama. He's recorded there, a hermit, he's got a following. Great. And he takes Siddhartha in, he teaches him, he learns meditation. And wow, they go up through the dhyanas. What are the dhyanas, for heaven's sake? He takes him right up to the 7th dhyana. So a little break for a minute. What are the dhyanas? The dhyanas are meditation states, yes? Maybe some of us got into the 1st dhyana today, maybe more, yeah? But, we sit down to meditate, all the rubbish comes up, this, that and the other, but maybe we're lucky, the mind calms, and the 1st dhyana, there's this sort of, some people translate it as rapture, some as delight. It comes up, this lovely energy goes, and the spine goes bing. It's really nice, yeah? And then there's this, what we call sukha, this pleasure, this joy, and that goes, it's pleasant, you've got these two things. And when you're focused, it's the 1st dhyana. You're all there. And your toes are involved, it's nice, you're integrated, and you're happy. This is the 1st dhyana. Still, a very simple thought can survive. Thoughts like, put your mind on the breath, keep it there. That's the level of thinking. Yeah, very simple. Then things start dropping away. The thinking goes as you go into the 2nd dhyana, so the delight, the joy, the one-pointedness. You go into the 3rd dhyana. This ping stuff is a bit too rough to survive. That disappears. It's just this sukha, this lovely pleasantness, 3rd dhyana, one-pointedness. 4th dhyana, that pleasantness goes, and it's just this amazing equanimity. I remember years ago, Bodhimitra saying, he says, everybody wants to be happy. That's like the 3rd dhyana. He said, but actually there's a state beyond the 3rd, beyond happiness, which is even better. He said, the trouble with happiness is there's still some vibration. There's a state beyond that, and that's like the 4th dhyana. Now, this is beyond my experience. I'm down here in the 1st. Maybe I bounce up a little bit higher sometimes, I don't know. Or I have a freak one, which is great fun. But no, the next 4, I know nothing about. Infinite space, infinite consciousness. And Alara Kalama can take Siddhartha up to the 7th one, which is no thingness. There is no perception of things. Everything is process. This is true. Everything is process. One of the hardest things is a diamond, yeah? It's process. It's process. You can actually go into the school laboratory with a Bunsen burner, light it, get some tongs, and set fire to a diamond and make the most expensive carbon dioxide in the world, You can do that. Don't hit, the great diamond test is a hammer. You destroy diamonds with a hammer, don't do it. But everything is process. Everything's on the move. We're on the move. Okay, fine. And I'm going to mention the name maybe more than once, Ayakema. I'm not really that keen on many other Buddhist teachers, but I'm falling in love with Ayakema. I listened to one of her lectures 3 times the other day. Her ashes are here in Berlin, a German woman, But she says the good thing about the 7th dhyana, and every word she speaks comes from experience and love, Ayakema, yeah? I just falling in love with this old woman the more I listen, yeah? But she says, the good thing about the 7th dhyana is you get a glimpse of reality in the sense that everything is processed, there are no things. Great. Lovely. Siddhartha, he's got to the 7th dhyana. This Alara Kalama can't be a bad guy because he realizes, the disciple has equaled the master. And being no schmuck, he says, would you like to jointly lead my movement? And which is fair, isn't it? And Siddhartha goes, no thanks, it's not ultimate. And he's gone. And he's off into the forest again. He finds another teacher, Udaka Ramaputta. And Udaka, it's the same story again. He's a hermit, he's got a following, and he can take the Buddha up to the 8th dhyana. Woo, the top. I reached the top and had to stop. Good. And, sorry, that's the Jungle Book. If you're wondering what the reference is. Yeah. But he takes him up to the 8th Jhana, and Ayakema, she's lovely. When you hear Ayakema, she knows the terrain. She knows it. It's lovely. She's like with a machete going through the jungle, you know. She knows the dhyanas. And she says, the 8th Jhana, she says, well, it's the realm of neither perception nor non-perception, so you can't really say anything about it. That's it! Yeah, love her for it. But again, the same story. Siddhartha, this is not ultimate. You know, he's offered the joint leadership. Off he goes into the forest. So he's away again. So he takes up ascetic practices, yeah? Before I go on, before that, Sangharakshita points out that he's offered the leadership, okay? And he says, no, thank you. And there's a victory in this, yeah? Because you can imagine becoming the bishop. Wow, you've got money and wealth and all the, I've reached the top, you know. And the complacency that can arrive, you know, you've got status, you've got wealth, you know. And he's offered the leadership of a movement. And what can come up here is sort of a spiritual, you've got spiritual ambition to get to the top, and then this complacency with it, and Siddhartha walks out on both. This is a victory, yeah? Letting go, all right? So, he's off into the forest again, and what is the text says, he goes off into the forest and seeks out really, you know, quite scary places, quite, you know, haunted places. Now, haunted places? Are there ghosts? Well, surely, I imagine almost everybody here has gone into a room at some point in their life and go, oh, I don't like it here. Have you sort of done that? Give a nod, you know. Yeah, it has an atmosphere. You go, ugh. And I remember friends, they moved into a flat. It was like, oh, no, that's a horrible story. Sorry. No, and this is horrible. Yeah, but I taught languages. I taught English in Essen, and my boss, she got a new building. She was so proud. It was bigger, it was cheaper, and I went up to do my first class, and I've got a student here, and there's the window. I just want to jump out the window. The whole class, I want to jump out the window, jump out the window. You know, we're 2 floors up, 3 floors up. I just want to jump out the window. Yeah. So I said, what's going on here? She says, oh, yeah, it was a Nazi interrogation centre. Yeah, and this is 70 years later. Haunted places, all right? But what's a bit sweeter is my mate Manjanatha from Venezuela. When they wanted to make a bit of pocket money, they'd find a psychic friend, and they get their torches and shovels, and they go off at night and try and find some old houses. And the psychic would try and find where a ghost was hanging around, yeah? And then they get the shovels and they dig and dig and dig, and they might find the savings of this person, because there were no banks, you know? So they buried their money and they died and they couldn't let go of the place, you know? So Manjanatha saw it as freeing the ghosts as well as getting a bit of pocket money. Who knows? Who knows? Lovely story. Yes, great. Sherlock Holmes. Was that true? Yeah. But there we go. Yeah. So, and so really the Buddha has, the victory here is fear. He's conquered fear. And he said of himself, when he was walking at night in the jungle and fear came upon him, yeah, and I know this, coming back from a party, you take a shortcut through a park or something like that, and you're on your own, it's dark, the leaves behind you rustle, and you go, you hurry a little bit, you know. And what I've noticed, and an acupuncturist told me this is true, when you're really tired, you're much more susceptible to fear. You know, when you're in good spirits, you're great, but when you're tired, yeah. But the Buddha said, when he was walking about and fear came upon him, he walked about. When he was sitting down and fear came upon him, he continued sitting. If he was lying down and fear came upon him, he continued lying. And in each case, he waited till the fear was gone. And in this way, he conquered fear. Another victory. Okay, great. So, all right. Yeah, he's not found the way. He takes up self-mortification, self-torture. He does this for 6 years. All these horrible tortures, starving yourself, blah, 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 blah. He gets so good at it, he said that he was the best at it that he knew. You know, nobody had gone further than he did. And he ended up with a following, with 5 disciples who are just waiting for enlightenment through this self-mortification. And the Buddha himself, he said his eyes had fallen into the back of his head. He said he was so thin he could touch his navel and feel his back. His hair had fallen out. He realized he was on the point of death. And in Bodh Gaya, there's a cave. You crawl in there, and there is a statue of this, like the skeleton of the Buddha sitting there in the dark, you know. That's there today, with a Brahmin with a big case for collecting your money. Anyway, there we go. And the Japanese tourist, yeah. I thought he was on a German income. There was so much money going in there, but let it be. All right, in Bodh Gaya, that's fantastic. So the Buddha got to the point of he actually realised he's dying. He's dying, and he's learnt nothing. And a young goat herd, she's passing by. She offers him a yogurt drink. He drinks it. Nice. The 5 ascetics, horror. You know, Siddhartha has gone back to the life of luxury, and they abandoned him. And again, Sangharakshita points out, he said, this is another victory, you know. He has just admitted that 6 years of appalling work was useless. Now, that's so hard to do. You know, you can be in a project for years and people are going, it's not working. No, give it another year. And they're going, it's a dead loss. Today you get people are conned into parting with their life savings. You know, you get this letter from Nigeria, this rainforest is going to be cut down. Would you like to invest in it? Or whatever, you know. And these con merchants, they take your money bit by bit by bit. And after you've, you know, emptied your bank account and given them 300,000 euros, you know, and nothing's coming back, they say, could you mortgage your house? This happens today a lot, you know. And you can't let go of the loss you've made. You can't say, I give up. I lost 300,000. I go on. No, they sell their house. They give the money. Then they go and get a loan and give that. And then finally, that happens a lot. You know, so it's this inability to say, I got it wrong. Cut your losses, get out. And that's what the Buddha does. Goes off alone. That's remarkable. He is famous, and he gives up fame. He inherits disgust, you know, from them, you know, incurs disgust, sorry. And yeah, I've just had here, we nearly did it with the big airport up the road here. Do you remember? They nearly started again. But they continued. They got away with it. Yes, BER airport. Good. So, there he is. He's on his own again in the forest. And then he remembers as a kid, he was watching his father ploughing in the field or something, maybe it was some contest or some ritual. And he spontaneously went into what we call the first dhyana. Just spontaneously pleasant, nice, no effort. And he just goes, that was probably the way. And he reflects on this and he just starts meditating. But I can't help feeling that with Alara Kalama and Ramaputra, it was maybe a willful meditation. You can do that. You can charge into meditation. I've done it myself. You can get really quite high. And you can really, I've done it, you know. I found this other world. Boom. Amazing, yeah? But you haven't earned it, you know. You're like on a bungee, on an elastic, and you get pulled back, yeah? But this is more natural, and he goes up through the dhyanas, and he says, you know, in letting go of the lower dhyanas, he went into higher, and letting go of the higher, he went higher still. But it was not willed, not forced. And then one morning, he looks at the morning star rising, probably Venus, and somehow greed, hatred, and delusion disappear. He has destroyed all the negative emotions. He is enlightened. 3 things happen when you gain enlightenment. 1, he saw all his past lives in great detail, his names and all this going back thousands of years, yeah? The second thing, he saw the process of karma working. It's not easy to see karma, you know. I can't see it, you know. You can work it out that it's there. But he saw karma working, you know, upon these actions, he got this rebirth, blah, blah. And the third thing was, he knew he was a Buddha. It's not enough to be a Buddha, you have to know you're a Buddha. And that's the third thing that happened. So that's it. So what have we got there? I've given you the sort of facts. There's the Indians love to give myths, and I love them for it now, you know. We do all the lovely psychology, you know, oh yes, he overcame this, that's this inferiority complex was dealt with here, and blah, 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 you know, whatever. But here we're in the realm of myth, you know, like those 4 sights earlier, seeing the old man, the sick man, the dead, you know, it's like, it's told mythically, you know. We would just say we got depressed, you know, life seemed crap, you know. But they tell it as a story. And here, there is a story where Mara, and this is the bit I sort of left out of Sangharakshita's talk because it's too complicated. Mara, this force that doesn't want you to make spiritual progress. Mara comes along, yeah. And I met Mara Thursday morning. Yeah? I woke up in bed, bit sore, order meeting in an hour's time. Most of us were not going to be there. I thought, yeah, bed's lovely. You could get a cup of tea, get back into bed. This is Mara speaking, you know? It would be really nice. It won't be that good a meeting, I'm sure, you know. But I am dutiful. And I got up, and I hurried to the centre. I met Dharmasara. We had an amazing meeting, didn't we? And it was that amazing meeting that really threw into contrast my little battle with Mara that morning.
I was the same.
You were the same. You didn't want to come either. Fantastic. But it was such a good time. It was lovely, you know. But yeah. I mean, normally we meet outside in the reception, then come in here for the meeting. We didn't get in here for about an hour and 20 minutes, did we? We just chatted out there, drinking coffees, and yeah, it was lovely. And it was a really good order meeting. So there's Mara, and I've said this, you know, if you ever try and give up smoking, that's when you meet Mara. That's Mara in his excellent, you know, he's really good. And he is you in a sense. So he knows all the little tricks, he knows all your weaknesses. He just doesn't want you to make progress. Keep with the status quo. Yeah? So you can imagine Mara's panic. And I only learned this listening to Bhante's thing. Mara is like, you've got all these different realms in Buddhism, you know. There's the animals, you know, the hell realms. You've got the human realms, and then you've got all the God realms, loads of them. You want to get to heaven, there's dozens, a couple of dozen different heavens. It's lovely. The lower ones, they still have sex, you know, but they have sex just by a look or touching hands. Yeah? You know, it's really lovely, you know, they get more, and then they are androgynous as you go higher. So all these, anyway. But Mara belongs to one of the lower God realms. And he's panicky because he's in charge. His realm is the Kamaloka. Whoa, I'm throwing the terms at you today. Yeah, Kamaloka is our world. Karma, it's not karma. Karma is ethical action. Ooh, bad karma. Yeah, that's all gone into the hippie world. Yeah, this is not that word. It's kama, K-A-M-A, and kama is sensuous delights, and you all know it. Kama Sutra. Kama Sutra with me. Oh, yeah. But probably Bonzo don't do that, man, but let that be. But it's the realm of sensuous delights, yeah? And that's where Mara works. And Sangharakshita, I couldn't believe it. He said, you cannot get enlightened from the Kama Loka. Never heard that before. Ooh. You get enlightened from the Rupa Loka and above. And we can be in the Rupa Loka without being on our meditation cushion. You know, the first dhyana and up, yeah? You can do that. All right. You might do it standing in front of a painting in the art gallery. You're just going, wow. You know, you don't want to go home. You're just happy. You're in first dhyana standing in front of an oil painting. And Ayakema, she just threw this in. She says, the first 3 dhyanas you can do in ordinary life. You know? Which is amazing. Not the 4th, she said, no, that's got to be meditation. But let that be. So this is Mara's realm. So he's panicking, you know, the Buddha is trying to, you know, he's going to move up. So, all right, speed up the story. He sends in his monsters. Yo! They all come flying in, throwing weapons, trees, mountains, it says. You know, they pick up a mountain, chuck a mountain at him. And the Buddha's aura, yeah, as they enter his aura, they turn into flowers. Amazing. Does anybody here, be discreet, just a little hand, does anybody experience auras? Yes. Fantastic. Yeah, all right. Yes. When I was in hospital 10, 11 years ago with cancer, my nurse, she saw my aura. She said it was green. All right, very nice. She was so impressed that she became a Buddhist. She's a Mitra, and her husband became a Mitra too. That was based on her seeing my aura. I mean, you've got to have something good after donkey's years of meditation. There ought to be something there. It's not that clever, you know. Yeah. But myself, I can't see them. But I remember in Ireland, I lived in Ireland for 3 years, and I used to meditate in odd places. One was the derelict church. And I'd be meditating there at midnight, 1 in the morning, and I'm doing the Metta Bhavana or whatever in this church. And it is a bit spooky, bits of the floor are missing, this, that, and the other. And I didn't realise I had an aura. So I've cultivated this thing of metta. And it was only when I changed switched the legs around, I'd lean out of the aura. It was like, shh, like a cold shower over the side. Back into my aura again, you know. And in one cemetery, there was no church or anything. This was miles out there was total darkness, just, you know, graves. Yeah, and mausoleums and nothing, yeah? And it's a black night, and I'm meditating there. And I remember this sort of aura of metta, and where it sort of met the fear cave coming in, there were these little white dancing feminine figures, which was really sweet, you know. Ooh. So you're anyway. There we go. So the Buddha's got an aura, yeah? And it protects him. Very nice, yeah. And I mean, heaven, yeah, that's it. But all the Buddha figures in paintings, they all have auras, all painted. So doesn't work. The Buddha, so Mara sends in his daughters, and they are mistresses in the art of seduction. Very skimpy clothing, very sexy. And the Buddha, he just visualizes them in about 50 years, when they got one tooth and they're dribbling and their hair is falling out. And he just visualizes them in their old age, and he breaks the spell. So, panic. So Mara comes in himself. I imagine him coming in a sharp suit. You know, not some horrible devil. Really cool. Maybe Ray-Bans, I don't know. But, and he just casts doubt. That's his thing. Vicikitsa. Life-destroying doubt. There's good doubts and there's bad doubts. And this is a bad one. You know? And what right do you have to be sitting there? And I love this English sentence. Who the hell do you think you are? These are the two sentences. My mum had these two sentences. Who the hell do you think you are? Or, who the hell do I think I am? She'd flick between these two. But there we go. Yeah? People with a modicum of confidence, they don't go to the extremes. They say, you're a devil. And they go, yeah. You know, they're not too bothered. But there we go. And who the hell do you think you are? And he takes the Buddha into the realm of doubt. This is amazing. You can do this with people. You know, con artists can change your world, you know. And the Buddha just touches the ground. Boom. He earths himself. Up pops this goddess. And she just recites all he's done in the past lives. His confidence returns. He gains enlightenment. Isn't that a nice way of telling it? Well done, India. You know, it's so colourful, and it's all the truths are there. And for our own thing, I realised years later that the monsters, that's hatred. The daughters, that's greed. And the lawyer figure of Mara, that's ignorance. So we've had the three forces sort of, you know, meeting those on the night of your enlightenment. Fantastic. So the Buddha conquers that. Isn't that brilliant? Very good, very good, good. So, yes. So he's enlightened, by heaven's sake, you know. He's done it. He's all the victories. Yeah? And then... But there's another one to come. There's one more victory ahead of him. He's enlightened. And he says, this was so unlikely, his gaining enlightenment. It's so unlikely. what he has found. He said it's like a blind man finding a priceless jewel on a dark night in a heap of dung. It's not possible, you know. So he then thinks, how do you teach this? You can't. So I'll sit here. And the Buddha, for 7 weeks, he goes around 7 different trees, spending a week under each, just absorbing the experience of being enlightened. Must have been quite something, yeah. And then this Brahma Sahampati turns up. Suddenly the sky is full of light, and this great Brahma is there. And Brahma, the Lord of 1,000 worlds, and he says, please, for those with just a little dust on their eyes, yeah, teach. Some people will get it, you know. And then the Buddha has this vision, and he just sees a pool of lotuses, and lotuses are fantastic. And I did used to do my homework. I remember travelling all the way to Kew Gardens in London, so just to look at the lotuses. Yeah, they have a lotus pond there in a special Victorian sort of room, and the lotuses, they're, what's the word? Aquaphobic. The water can't touch them. Yeah. A lotus, you throw dirty water all over it, it won't stick. It can't stick, you know. So lotuses, they grow in these filthy ponds in India, and I've seen that. It's a stagnant, stinking pond, and this pristine object of total beauty is standing in the middle of it. It's so pure, the light travelling through the petals, you know, totally clean in an impure world, you know. And the Buddha, he has this vision of lotuses. He sees lotuses sort of opening up a bit under the water. Some are half open. Some have come above, and their flowers are really open. And he says, this is the world. This is the world. Some people might get it. And he decides to teach. And that is the final victory. He's overcome being a Buddha. You know, he's overcome a sort of spiritual materialism, yeah, of being selfish on the path. Yeah? So that's basically the talk. Yeah. So the list is: he overcame the family and the group. He overcame spiritual complacency and ambition. He overcame fear in the forest. He overcame the tendency to refuse to admit you've made a mistake. Yeah, he overcame that. He overcame Mara, and now spiritual individualism, being selfish on the path. He's overcome that. And Sangharakshita says, you know, all of us here, have all of these difficulties to deal with ourselves. You know, what the Buddha had to deal with, we all have to deal with. You know. But Sangharakshita, he was once asked, I mean, you can get various types of disciple. You get the disciple who's more of an ascetic, you know, they go for the hard stuff, you know, the long hours of meditation, whatever, their diet is so simple. I mean, Sangharakshita was one. You know, in India, radical, for heaven's sake. He got rid of he dyed his clothes yellow. This one, he's a young man. He deserts from the British Army, finds a friend. They dye their clothes yellow. They burn their passports and identity papers. It's all gone. They give away what money they have and go. That's Sangharakshita. He's one of the more ascetic types, yeah. And then there's the indulgent types. And somebody said to him once about his order. He said, Bhante, you know, do you see our order as, you know, divided into sort of ascetic types and more sort of indulgent types? And Bhante went, no, they're all indulgent. All my disciples, you know, without exception, they all go for the soft life, you know. Basically, those are my words. But, you know, nah, not this movement. I mean, he despairs of us sometimes. He really does despair of us. But, and then I've heard him say, he heard us all clapping once in a talk. I was present, you know, and he said, the applause gives me some hope. You know? But he does. Sorry, I don't want to depress you. But he does ask at the end of this talk. If you listen to his talk on the Buddha's victory, he's really tough at the end. He's really tough. He says you need to meditate hard. He says you need to study hard. He said you need to work hard. You need to play hard. Yeah, he said, you really need to be victorious. And he said, really, you need to become more Jinist than Buddhist, you know, and that's his urge at the end of his talk, you know. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah, the Buddha's victory, and all these little stages of victories. There we go. I hope you got something out of it. Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Lovely. Great, thank you very much. I'll stick that on YouTube, you know, and, you know, yeah, just in case. Do you know who's the biggest fan? I love listening to my talks again. Isn't that terrible? I'm such a devil. I sort of hook people in, you know, with the jokes. And I watch it and I get hooked in. And it's about 1 in the morning. I go, and I don't get to bed on time. But anyway, there we are. I'll cut that out later. Yeah. Thank you so much. So, some of us will go for a picnic now. The sun's out. We'll go up to Sudstern, buy stuff at the stalls there, whatever, and just sit around. You're very welcome to come. It's quite nice. Give us your money, please. Yeah, I just wanted to say, this place, it looks like, God, these Buddhists are rich. It's made of paper, really, the whole thing. It's an illusion. I mean, there's a number of people, how did we get, it was 1.4 million euros to buy and renovate, yeah? We borrowed it. We borrowed the money. You know, and various order members, very generous. Some put up 200,000, some put up 100,000, some, you know. That's how we did it, you know. And we're paying it back bit by bit. We've still got 400,000 to go. So give us your money, because we're doing the next crazy thing. We've bought a retreat centre, which we totally can't afford. And we're all borrowing money left, right and centre. So it's all a lovely illusion, but it's based on just individual generosity, the whole thing. So do feel free to chuck some money in. We'll take pesetas, we'll take centimes, we'll take anything. Good. Lovely. Is that it, really?